Welcome to the Naruto Stories channel. This is a continuation of the story of chapters 6 to 10 about Kushina and Naruto. Before you start watching, like and subscribing to the channel. You can also subscribe to my Boosty. There will be exclusive content. Thank you. Enjoy watching, everyone. Chapter 6. Naruto. The blonde wandered through the streets of the city, forgetting about his little deed. Now he didn't want to think about it. He only knew that he wanted to sleep it off. He reached the hotel and went inside. It seemed strange to him that the receptionist didn't notice the blonde guy in the bloody sweater and his kunai, but he didn't care. It just saved him a lot more time having to explain himself. Naruto walked up the steps and headed to his room. The blonde heard the conversation from the other side and realized that it was his mother and Jiraiya. He opened the door and looked at them staring back at him. "Hey, you've been gone for a long time," Kushina said, and Naruto smiled innocently. Both the Toad Sage and the revived Scarlet Death looked at the Neshul in shock when they noticed brown stains of barely dried blood on his sleeve. The blonde didn't even have the sense to hide the kunai. "What's happened?" Kushina asked. Jiraiya seemed interested as well, and the blonde looked down at the floor. He quickly took off the top half of his orange jumpsuit and threw it on the floor. "It's okay, Ka-san. I think I'll go to bed," Naruto muttered, and without taking off his pants or even pulling the blanket over himself, he lay down on the bed and dropped his kunai on the floor. Now he didn't care about it. Kushina and Jiraiya looked at each other, and although Jiraiya didn't know what happened to Naruto, he guessed from the bloody stain on his jacket and kunai. Kushina seemed to have guessed it too. Naruto told her the conditions for revival. She was worried about her son. She didn't want Naruto to ever experience this, but she knew it was necessary for him to be a shinobi. She decided to definitely talk to Naruto when he woke up tomorrow. "Well, Kushina, I think I'll follow Naruto's example and go to bed too. I think you'll need new clothes tomorrow," Jiraiya said, and Kushina nodded in agreement. For now, she would sleep in the clothes she had. Kushina climbed onto Naruto's bed and lay down next to him. She wasn't sure if Naruto was awake or not, but she wrapped her arms around her son and held him close. "Don't worry about it. I know you can handle it. I don't think I can tell you this, but thank you. I can't imagine how you feel now that you've killed someone, and while I'm not thrilled that it happened for me, I'm glad you feel that way." "Thank you, baby," Kushina whispered, closing her eyes and falling asleep. Jiraiya turned off the lights in the room, and the entire room was plunged into silence and darkness. Jiraiya fell asleep, but Kushina and Naruto were not sleeping. Naruto was not sleeping, but his mother did not know about it since he was lying with his back to her. Naruto remembered her words, and they made the blonde happy, at least for a while. He knew it would be difficult, but he would get through it. Instead of worrying about it, he'll just adapt. He'll forever feel sad and guilty about it, but he'll follow Kyuubi's advice and come to terms with it. He had to do it if he wanted to make it happen. "Thank you, Ka-san," Naruto said with a smile and closed his eyes. Kushina smiled tenderly and nodded, falling asleep. The next morning, somewhere in the fields near the city, Naruto, Jiraiya and Kushina stood in the middle of the field, deciding to train Naruto in his control, mainly what Kushina wanted. She decided to take on Naruto's training as she had always wanted to, just like his mother. Jiraiya didn't mind this at all and wanted to see what Kushina could do as a teacher. Naruto was in a more or less good mood and believed that training would help him take his mind off yesterday's incident. Jiraiya went into town while Kushina explained taijutsu to Naruto, and the blonde really wanted to hate his mother. "Damn, Naruto, your stance sucks." "Don't worry. Ka-sen will fix everything now and teach you his style of taijutsu," Kushina said as Naruto fell to the ground and began to sniffle. "Ka-san, you're crazy," Naruto said, and Kushina looked at her son with a grin. She straightened her hair and watched as Naruto stood up. Repetition is the mother of learning. Get up and let's continue, Kushina said, and Naruto began to perform his mother's difficult taijutsu kata again. She called this taijutsu cut, the essence of which was to hit certain points on the body and incapacitate the enemy, and it would be even more effective to cut off limbs or make it look that way. Ideal for the kenjutsu user. Kushina said that she herself came up with this style, and it was famous in Konoha. Already bearable, Kushina said, and Naruto nodded strangely in gratitude. Well, rest. I'll go get some clothes, Kushina said, walking away. Naruto nodded and looked after his mother as she left. He remained sitting under the tree and sighed with relief, feeling himself gradually relaxing. Wake up, Blondie, Shin drawled, making Naruto jump and turn around. He raised an eyebrow when he saw his contractor there and rose to his feet. Do not do that, Naruto said, offended, causing the Shinigami to chuckle maliciously. Naruto opened his eyes wide and smiled. It might not have been enough, but he managed to make the Shinigami laugh. An, what do you want? I fulfilled our contract, right? Naruto asked, and the Shinigami nodded in agreement. He then dug into the pockets of his white robe and pulled out a scroll. It's time for you to become my true summoner, the Shinigami said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? Naruto asked, and the Shinigami grinned, placing the scroll next to the bed. Naruto Uzumaki, it's time for you to learn how to use my power. I'm going to teach you the forbidden jutsu of the god of death, Shin said, and Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Even Kyuubi became interested in this. What does it mean to learn your jutsu? Naruto asked, and the Shinigami broke into a smile. I'm going to make you a human Shinigami, Shin said, and if at first Naruto was surprised, then he froze in amazement. From now on, Shinigami is officially the best summon in the world, but I just received your contract. Don't you think this might be too hasty? Naruto asked, and Shin raised an eyebrow. He realized what Naruto was getting at and thought about what he had said. In some ways you are right. If it weren't for our agreement, what I was planning could have killed you, Shin admitted, and Naruto choked. He wondered what Shinigami wanted to do to him. Then maybe just give me 3 more weeks to get used to it, and then teach me all these cool jutsu, Naruto suggested. Usually he would kill for the opportunity to learn something new, especially from Shin, but he just needed time to dull the emotions of the experience a little. Well, that'll do. I want to see what you can do in battle, so I won't rush things, Shin said, and Naruto smiled, nodding. The Shinigami immediately disappeared, and the blonde exhaled. He fell to his knees, and Kyuubi decided to raise his voice. What's wrong with you, boy? You usually don't shut up when it comes to training, but suddenly you're stalling? Kyuubi asked, and Naruto laughed. Maybe. Don't worry, I'm going to learn these cool techniques. I can't wait to see the look on their faces when I show everyone how good I am. Perhaps Tsunade-bachan will give me the Hokage hat at that very moment. Naruto babbled happily, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Kyuubi shivered and shook his muzzle, looking at his captor. To think that I was worried about him because of such nonsense, Kyuubi thought, and widened his eyes. Was he worried about Naruto? No way. He hated all people, he wanted to kill them all. He was a fucking demon, damn it. Why would he be afraid to worry about anyone? Are you okay? You just stopped talking, Naruto asked the shocked Ninetales. I'm fine, don't even think about worrying about me, Kyuubi said, and immediately cut the connection, causing Naruto to raise an eyebrow. What the hell just happened? Naruto was surprised, and immediately turned his head to see his mother and sensei returning. Kushina was carrying something wrapped in cloth in her hands. There was a jubilant expression on her face. Hey Naruto-chan, did you have a good rest? Kushina asked, and Naruto nodded, not taking his eyes off what his mother was holding in her hands. Yeah, that was great, Ka-san, Naruto said, and Kushina nodded in approval. That's great, Databane. And I have a surprise for you, Kushina exclaimed and placed a package on Naruto's lap. The blonde raised an eyebrow and looked at his mother. What is this, Ka-san? Naruto asked as Kushina continued to smile softly. Naruto lifted his lips slightly in a smile, and she asked him to unwrap the small gift. The blonde was happy to receive such an early birthday present. He had never been given a gift before, other than a few sets of training kunai from Irika and Sarutobi. In all other cases, Naruto was simply greeted with a greeting, a happy birthday, or a treat at Ichiraku Ramen, so receiving something more, especially from his mother, was nice. The blonde unwrapped the gift and widened his eyes. Inside the package was a medium-sized sword with a slightly curved blade. The handle was orange in color with a swirl pattern on it, and a small tassel that hung from the end of it. Next to the sword lay a black scabbard with flame patterns. Ka-san? Naruto asked in shock, and Kushina chuckled. I'm going to pass on my knowledge to you. And I want you to follow in the footsteps of our clan, your father and your mother. I know you can do it, Kushina said, and Naruto's eyes sparkled. He had to learn the style of kenjutsu invented by his mother, other techniques of his father, and the jutsu of the Uzumaki clan. This meant a lot to the blonde. And how did you pay for this? Naruto asked, and Kushina smiled cheerfully, waving her wallet. Oh, Jiraiya helped me. At first he refused, but I convinced him to help me, Kushina answered, continuing to smile, which made Naruto swallow. Moms can be scary. Naruto shuddered and rose to his feet. The blonde took the sword in his hands and watched as his mother assumed a taijutsu stance. Well, don't let me down, Naruto. I am in charge of your training, and now we will catch up as mother and son, Kushina stated enthusiastically, and Naruto grinned. He didn't dare wish for more. Don't doubt it, Ka-san. I will show you that I am worthy of the name Uzumaki, Naruto assured, making Kushina giggle. This is definitely my son, Kushina purred and looked at Naruto. Well, I'll show you why people called me Bloody Habanero, Kushina said, and Naruto chuckled. Ero-sennin told me. You were so fast that people only saw a patch of your beautiful scarlet hair, Naruto said as Kushina smiled shyly. Oh, so he told you. You're the second person to compliment my hair, Kushina said, and Naruto chuckled. His mother's hair was truly beautiful. This made the blonde wonder what it would be like to have hair the same color. It might have made him look cool, but he admitted it wouldn't go well with his orange jumpsuit. Let me guess, Dad was the first? Naruto asked, and Kushina nodded. Yeah? We called it the red thread of fate, Kushina explained, and Naruto thought about it. It sounded pretty nice. Well, enough talk. Show me what you can do, Kushina ordered, and Naruto grinned. I'll take your word for it, Ka-san. I'm starting, Databeo, Naruto shouted and rushed at his mother with his sword, which he would use in the future. Kushina smiled as she watched her son rush to attack. The style is clumsy and the grip is weak. Oh my boy, you still have a lot to learn, Kushina mentally said with a smile as she continued to train Naruto. Chapter 7. Kushina watched with a grin as Naruto huffed and puffed in frustration as he lay on the ground. He had been training with his mother in kenjutsu for the past 3 hours, and she had been brutal. Kushina couldn't hold back at all. He didn't stand a chance against her, and how could he? She was a kenjutsu legend and she was too fast for her to catch up. At times Naruto would lose sight of her and Kushina would joke to him that she would have killed him at least 1,000 times already. Naruto pouted at her words but knew it was true. He simply couldn't compare to his mother, but that didn't mean he would give up. He would beat her at her own game, and she would drop her jaw when she saw what he was capable of. The scarlet-haired and blonde were still on the training field. Naruto was out of breath and looked at his mother towering over him. She had an arrogant smirk on her face, causing the blonde to pout. "Well, Naruto-kun, your kenjutsu is disgusting, and your taijutsu, well, let's keep it up," Kushina said, and Naruto's eyebrow twitched. He would really make his mother eat those words. Maybe not today, maybe not in a year, but someday he would make her pay. It is not my fault. I've never held a katana in my life, and I tried to create my own taijutsu, and Kakashi-sensei never taught me this seriously, Naruto said, and Kushina raised an eyebrow. She remembered Kakashi. How could she not remember? The white-haired boy spent almost all his time with Minato. She believed it was purely out of respect and admiration. "Kakashi didn't teach you anything?" "He told me that he would be more than happy to teach you when you grow up," Kushina said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow. It seems that people promised him and his mother a lot, however, they somehow forgot about keeping their word. All this time he trained Sasuke. "He never trained me, except for tree walking," Naruto said, and Kushina's auburn hair obscured her eyes. Naruto saw her ball her hands into fists and giggle strangely, making Naruto gulp. "Really?" Kushina asked and looked at the sky. Naruto didn't know what his mother was thinking, but it had to be something quite evil. "Run, Kakashi-sensei!" Naruto mentally screamed, and having returned to Konoha at this time, the Jounin sneezed, and a shiver ran down his spine, and then he felt a strange desire to start counting down the remaining days of his life before something happens. Meanwhile, Kushina decided to help her son get to his feet and sat him down in the shade of a tree. "Okay, Naruto-kun, we have more than enough time to get you into proper shape. Tell me what you can do and I will help you improve it," Kushina said, and Naruto nodded. He listed all his abilities, told her about the Kage Bunshin technique and how he mastered the Rinnegan. Kushina smiled. Her son had two powerful techniques at his disposal. Naruto had various types of Bunshin, but other than that he did not possess anything else. He, of course, told her about the contract with the Toads and Shinigami, which made Kushina tense, but she seemed to have forgotten about it. When Naruto finished, Kushina folded her arms and smiled. "You're just like me, Naruto-kun," Kushina said, and Naruto wondered what she meant. Kushina giggled and explained to Naruto. "I mean, you learn by doing things. I've never liked books. I just hated them, but if you give me something to do in practice, I will learn everything in the blink of an eye. This is how we will teach you, Naruto. Remember I told you that I would teach you my taijutsu and kenjutsu. Jiraiya will work on your chakra control, and I will control it. He told me about the 2 years you have to train, and we will make sure that each of those days is useful," Kushina said, and Naruto nodded with a look of complete determination. Naruto stood up and extended his fist. "I'll do it, Ka-san. I will make you proud of me and blow everyone away with my amazing skills," Naruto said, and Kushina nodded in approval. After all, he really was her son. Kushina stood up and stroked her son's head. "Great, then let's get back to training. We'll work on your taijutsu first," Kushina said, and Naruto nodded. They walked a little and Kushina turned to him. "So, from what I saw of your taijutsu, you need a completely different style. This one leaves too many open spaces and too many chances for counterattacks. Lucky for you, I've come up with my own, which, true to my name, is called Habanero Heat. It is based on fast and rapid movements of the limbs. It's more like anticipating an opponent's reaction and a lethal mixture of speed and strength. The most difficult thing in this taijutsu is to find equal ratios of strength and speed. You only have a second to accumulate this power, but I have found a way to do it. You can do it too, perhaps even faster than me," Kushina said with a grin. Naruto's eyes sparkled and Kushina smiled slyly as she took out a scroll and printed out 2 sheets of paper. Naruto examined them with interest and turned to his mother. Kushina took 2 pieces of paper and stamped them one at a time onto his arm and left leg, then channeled chakra into each of them. As soon as she did, Naruto fell to the ground, feeling as if Gamabunta was sitting on him. "Ka-san, this is hard," Naruto said with difficulty, and Kushina nodded understandingly. She really didn't want to see her son suffer, but she knew it would help him in the future. These are training weights that I made. I'm a pretty good seal maker, so to speak. Right now you don't have the speed required to use my taijutsu or kenjutsu style. When you reach the desired speed, the color of the paper will change. Now it's white, but we need it dark blue," Kushina explained, and Naruto's eyes widened. Was he supposed to move like this until the color of his seals changed? "Ka-san, that's cruel," Naruto said, and Kushina laughed. "You said you wouldn't complain, Naruto-kun," Kushina remarked, and Naruto sighed. He just nodded and strained his muscles to stand up. Kushina watched as the blonde stood up and was amazed that Naruto was already on his feet. The first time she tried it, she couldn't get up for about half an hour, and Naruto had already done it. What he saw only made Kushina smile more at her son. "Well, for now we'll let your body get used to these seals. You won't be able to fully get used to them for a few days or even weeks, but it will help you become stronger," Kushina added and left. Naruto looked after his mother as she left and sighed. She really wanted to kill him, but Naruto didn't give up. He tried to look at everything on the positive side. He will be very strong when this is all over and he will thank his mother for it. Not to mention that Shin wanted to turn him into a human Shinigami. He was curious about what techniques he would learn, but first he had to get back to his room. "Well, you're in trouble, kid," Kyubi grinned, and Naruto sighed resignedly. He knew that someday he would hear his tenant, and he knew that Kyubi would mock him. This is not funny at all. "Damn, this is so hard," Naruto grumbled as he made his way through the meadows towards the town where they were staying. Every step was like rolling a damn boulder. "March, asshole! RR 1 2 3 4. Left! Left! RRR time!" Kyubi repeated this like a sergeant in training, and grinned cheerfully. Naruto growled in pain. He would give anything to lift this burden from himself. As the blonde walked, he came across the place where his mother had kicked his ass during training. He saw his sword still lying on the ground, and the blonde man narrowed his eyes. He quickly reached for the sword and tried to lift it off the ground, but the combined weight of the seals and the sword made it even heavier for Naruto. Then the guy strained with all his strength and pulled until he finally managed to lift the sword. Naruto looked at him and sighed. The hardest thing is finding the balance between strength and speed. Naruto remembered his mother's words and frowned. If he was going to adapt to the seals, he had to do it now. It was not in vain that he went on this training journey, and the guy intended to use all his strength to become stronger. Naruto crossed his fingers as the fire of determination flashed in his eyes. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto barked and created 10 clones. The blonde gripped the sword in his hands and tried to lift it. When he succeeded, he turned to all his clones and waved his hands. "Pack on!" Naruto exclaimed, and all his clones rushed at him. He wouldn't lose to Sasuke, he wouldn't be considered a failure anymore. He will change and show himself to everyone in a new way. At night, Jiraiya and Kushina were at the hotel when Naruto appeared at the door. They had been waiting for him all day, and Kushina was starting to worry if she had gone overboard with the seals. But when they saw him, they were both relieved and worried. Naruto's face was covered in bruises and his clothes were torn. He looked like he had been through some tough times. Kushina and Jiraiya asked what he was doing, and Naruto smiled. Ka-san will be training tomorrow, so be ready, Naruto said and immediately collapsed on the floor. Jiraiya turned to Kushina and laughed, holding his stomach. He was always impatient. You were the same, you know, Jiraiya said, and Kushina frowned slightly at how obnoxious Jiraiya was. The sage sighed and picked Naruto up and laid him on the bed. Judging by his snoring, the blonde was already passed out. He must have been training with his clones. No wonder it's so dented, Jiraiya said, and Kushina looked up in surprise. Perhaps she slightly underestimated her son's determination. She walked over to him and ruffled his hair, running her finger along his jawline. Kushina giggled softly as she watched her son twitch from her movements, but then decided to stop. She ran her fingers over his mustache scars and smiled again. She just couldn't stop smiling when she was around her son. Naruto muttered something, shifted on the bed and involuntarily grabbed Kushina's hand. The scarlet-haired girl smiled and turned around to see that Jiraiya was also falling asleep. Kushina turned off the light and climbed into bed with her son. This made her chuckle in amusement because she never thought that at her age she would still be sharing a bed with her son, but seeing the circumstances, she could understand and she would rather be with her son than with Jiraiya, not knowing what this pervert could do to her. Kushina kissed her son's cheek and closed her eyes, letting sleep take over her. She had never been so calm in her life. A week later, Naruto was back at the training ground with Kushina, practicing taijutsu with her. The blonde told her about his training with the clones, and how trying to adapt to the seals would take too much time, and he didn't want it to be wasted. Kushina nodded in understanding and walked slightly ahead of the schedule she had planned for herself and Naruto. Naruto had gotten a little used to the seals on his body. He could at least walk and run a little, but he still had some problems, just like Kushina had said. Naruto was currently doing some stretching with Kushina to warm up for their training. Kushina told Naruto that his speed would increase if he was more flexible, so she helped him with that. Naruto was doing an exercise where his legs were spread apart, and he sat on the ground and stretched forward while Kushina pushed him lower. Ka-san, you're killing me, Naruto muttered, and Kushina laughed. Naruto-kun, don't grumble, Kushina said, pinning him to the ground. Naruto gritted his teeth at the pain he felt and heard his bones click a few times. So, what do I have to work on? Naruto asked as he tried to endure the pain of the stretch. After the warm-up, I will teach you how to hold a sword correctly, and then I will show you some kata from my taijutsu style. You may not understand right away, but I have the perfect method ready to help you, Kushina said, and Naruto nodded with a grin, but before he could exhale, he felt severe pain in his back. After warming up, Naruto sat on the ground and watched his mother standing in front of him. Kushina smiled as she wanted her son to be very attentive. Kage bunshin no jutsu, Kushina thought, and then a clone appeared next to her, making Naruto's eyes widen. Kushina smiled, looking at his shocked face, and Naruto muttered some nonsense, as if trying to explain to himself what he had seen. Keika-san, how did you do that? You just did this technique without a single stamp, Naruto said in shock, fully concentrating his gaze on his mother. Kushina giggled and rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment. Well, Naruto-kun, let's just say I'm very good at this technique, Kushina said, and Naruto's eyes widened again. If he could learn this, he could surprise so many people that he would have enough time to do other maneuvers. He should get his mother to teach him this. Okay, Naruto-kun, time to focus on taijutsu. I want you to keep a close eye on me and my clone. Don't take your eyes off us under any circumstances, Kushina said, and Naruto nodded obediently. Both red-haired girls clashed and Kushina nodded. The clone smirked and lunged at her before throwing a punch, but Kushina saw him and with a speed that made Naruto wince, she dodged it and punched the clone in the stomach. The clone coughed, but did not dissipate, and that was the first thing Naruto noticed. However, the clone quickly came to his senses and grabbed Kushina's arm, and then threw it over his shoulder. Kushina gritted her teeth and deftly spun around, landing on her feet and landing a kick at the clone's chest. The blow hit the bull's eye, and Kushina sent the clone flying towards a tree, causing it to dissipate. She smoothed her hair and turned to Naruto. This is counteraction at its best, Naruto-kun. You lure your opponent, and once you have him in your hands, you unleash all your speed and strength to damage him. The damage is piercing and it hurts like hell, databang. Kushina explained and Naruto nodded in understanding. Come on, try it. Remember, the goal is to anticipate, then react correctly and finally counterattack with full force. Kushina said and Naruto nodded. He made a seal and shouted, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. One clone appeared. They stood opposite each other and cracked their knuckles. Kushina signaled for them to begin. The two Narutos charged at each other and began sparring. Kushina sighed heavily when she saw Naruto's style. He counterattacked differently than she did. His counters were slower and his chakra control was poorer. One hit on the clone, and it dissipated. She had to teach him kenjutsu and chakra control before starting taijutsu training, otherwise it wouldn't work. Naruto seemed to sense his mother's disappointment and sighed regretfully. He wondered if this was really his chosen fighting style and was about to apologize to her when Kushina tapped him on the shoulder. Keep trying, Naruto-kun. It won't be easy, but we've already started, Kushina said, standing in front of Naruto. The blonde raised an eyebrow and Kushina smiled. Hit me, she said, and Naruto raised an eyebrow questioningly. Kushina pointed to her face and said, Hit me, go ahead, Naruto-kun. Oh my, Kushina is a sadomasochist here. I wouldn't mind sending a clone to look for mistakes and correct them from the side. Naruto narrowed his eyes and wondered if there was a catch, but with a sigh he struck. Kushina's smile turned into a grin as she grabbed Naruto's arm and kicked him in the stomach, sending the blonde flying backwards and onto the ground. Come on, Naruto-kun. Hit me. If you don't hit me, you won't get dinner. Kushina purred and Naruto winced. He won't get dinner? Kushina sighed as she rushed at Naruto and punched him in the face. You won't let your mother wallow in the dust, will you? Kushina asked, and Naruto gritted his teeth as he stood up from the ground. Kushina got behind him and kicked him across the field. She didn't like it, but she felt like she understood Naruto's thoughts. It was like saying, if I survive this, I can learn to do this. At least that's what Kushina thought. Naruto coughed and clutched his stomach. The blonde cursed under his breath. He didn't want to hurt his mother, but her blows and kicks chilled him to the bone. Naruto gasped and rose to his feet when suddenly Kushina appeared in front of him. She struck and Naruto's eyes lit up. He quickly dodged Kushina despite the seals placed on his body, causing Kushina's eyes to widen in surprise. She grinned and nodded in understanding. I knew I was right, Kushina said in her mind and rushed at Naruto again. The blonde could hardly stand on his feet, but he clearly saw his mother's blows. After a week of constant sparring and the pain that came with it, Naruto was more than capable of withstanding his mother's attacks. He just had to understand that he could do it. Kushina kicked and Naruto jumped, dodging it. His body was very heavy. It weighed him down and made it difficult to breathe, but he was known for his endurance, and he'd be damned if a minor setback stopped him from trying again. The blonde quickly made a splash and Kushina smiled. The stretching made Naruto more flexible. He liked it more and more. Everything was happening too quickly. His mind didn't have time to think about anything, but Naruto moved on reflexes. The feeling of the blow he received, the pain that came with it, the bitter memories of how Sakura beat him. All this fueled his feelings at the moment. Naruto sighed in relief for a second, but blocked a blow to the stomach and tried to kick Kushina's side, but the redhead did not allow this and easily parried the blow. She was impressed. Naruto launched a counterattack. He worked on it all week, but he did it. Kushina simply found the perfect method for teaching her son. Unknown to either of them, the Shinigami was watching them, and a smirk flashed across his face. "He'll make a great Shinigami," Shin said and continued to watch. Naruto gritted his teeth and sighed. He jumped away from Kushina when his mother put a hand to her side. Naruto managed to land at least one blow to his mother. Kushina winced slightly, but smiled as she stopped moving. "You did it, Naruto-kun. Even if it was just a scratch, you did it," Kushina said happily, and Naruto beamed. He sighed hoarsely and fell to the ground, well, almost. As he fell into Kushina's arms, which made her smile. She pulled up his sleeve and looked at the seal. Of course, she changed color from white to yellow. Kushina smiled and only hugged her son tighter. "This is my son Databane," Kushina said as she and Naruto rested in a field. Jiraiya watched this spectacle with a grin. He was going to teach Naruto how to improve the rinnegan and control the Kyuubi's chakra, but Kushina was perhaps the best teacher Naruto could ever ask for. Chapter 8. 2 weeks later, Naruto, Kushina, and Jiraiya were currently in the land of hot springs, traveling. They wanted to take a little break from constant traveling and training. Naruto was deep in learning the habanero heat taijutsu style he learned from his mother, and his arms were constantly hurting. He had mastered the counter moves and was now working on the next step in her taijutsu. He still had obvious mistakes, but slowly and surely Kushina was literally beating them out of him. Jiraiya told Naruto a little about Fuinjutsu, as the blonde began to be interested in this art as well. When the sage told him that it was the most difficult of all shinobi arts, Naruto simply replied that he didn't care and would master it, making Kushina and Jiraiya laugh. Kushina also told Naruto about her unique chakra ability, which is the creation of chakra chains, which she demonstrated a few days ago. Naruto asked her if he could do that too since he was her son, but Kushina replied that she wasn't sure. However, things weren't all bad as Naruto began to show early success with the seals Kushina was using on him. He still had them on, but his body felt a little lighter, and he could run as usual. With them, he was able to perform standard exercises and fend off most of Kushina's attacks when she wasn't serious. At the same time, Naruto spoke with the Shinigami about a week ago and agreed that he would like to become his full summoner and undergo full training in the Shinigami arts. Naruto still had a scar on his chest from that encounter. Flashback. Naruto quietly left the hotel room and walked out of the hotel into the forest. He quickly went deeper into the forest and asked Kyuubi to make sure that no one was following him. Kyuubi confirmed to the blonde that no one was following him within half a mile, and Naruto nodded in gratitude. He looked at the seal on his right hand and narrowed his eyes. Naruto sighed slowly and bit his thumb, running it over the seal. "Kuchios no Jutsu!" Naruto shouted, and the seal glowed with a bright light as usual. Naruto closed his eyes and soon the glow faded. The blonde felt Shin's presence behind him and turned around. Of course, he saw Shinigami behind him. If you see something over and over again, it stops being scary, and Naruto got used to Shin's constant appearances once he got to know him better. "Is there anything I can help you with, Naruto?" the Shinigami asked, and Naruto looked at the ground and smiled. Shin waited for Naruto's answer and the blonde chuckled, causing the Shinigami to raise an eyebrow. Even the Kyuubi didn't know what Naruto wanted from the Shinigami. He was sure it wasn't to resurrect anyone since Naruto was still conflicted with himself thinking about it. At times he tried to push the thought to the back of his mind, but it would surface, and Naruto would go quiet every 3 hours when it happened. "Yes, Shin. I called you to say this." I want to be your full-fledged contractor, and I would like you to teach me how to be a human Shinigami," Naruto said, causing both the Kyuubi and the Shinigami to widen their eyes in surprise. Shin never expected to hear such an early response. "You are sure?" Shin asked, and Naruto nodded with absolute determination that told Shin everything he needed to know. The Shinigami glared at Naruto, but the blonde responded in kind. He wasn't sure if he could handle the responsibility, but he knew he could handle anything Shin threw at him. "I'm sure of that, Databale. You made me your summoner because you said I was interesting. Well, I will continue to prove to you that I am interesting. I will never back down or run away from my responsibilities," Naruto said, and Shin's lips curled into a grin. The Kyuubi also smirked in his cage, and the Shinigami took the sword out of his mouth. He looked at him longingly and turned to Naruto. "I will never use this sword again," Shin said, and Naruto's eyes widened in surprise. Shin then held out his sword and made Naruto gasp as he plunged it into his body. Naruto felt his life flash before his eyes and he thought he was going to die, but instead of feeling the life leaving his body, he felt his soul being filled. He was overcome by a feeling of slight warmth, and at the same time a slight cold. A thin aura spread across Naruto's body, and the blonde turned to the Shinigami. Shin simply looked at him with his menacing gaze. After a while he lowered Naruto to the ground, and the Kyuubi Jinchuriki noticed that all the aura was directed towards his sword. It glowed for just a second, but then dimmed. Naruto also noticed that he had a scar down the middle of his chest, showing where the Shinigami had impaled him. "If you are so sure of your responsibility, then you will bear it. I will continue to watch you. Your sword will serve me. Don't abuse it. Training will begin when I deem you suitable," Shin said and disappeared. Naruto continued to stare into the darkness and directed his gaze towards his sword. He took it in his hands. The heaviness was still felt, but now the blonde did not pay attention to it. He drew his sword and got to work. It looked no different from the shiny metal it was made of, but for some strange reason Naruto felt an entity inside the sword. Maybe it was a dream or not, but he knew what he was feeling. This was no longer an ordinary sword. It was the Shinigami sword. Either Kushina nor Jiraiya knew what happened that night, or the fate that awaited Naruto because of his choices. End of flashback. Naruto snapped out of his thoughts when he realized they had stopped. He looked up and furrowed his brow when he saw them stop in front of a shinobi shop. The blonde raised an eyebrow questioningly and turned to Jiraiya, as if he was expecting something more. "Will I be trained here?" Naruto asked, and Jiraiya sighed. Kushina giggled and Jiraiya shook his head. "Of course no. Let me explain. We will carry out missions. This is one of the Konoha divisions that issues missions for people like me," Jiraiya said as Naruto crossed his arms and tried to understand what the hell Jiraiya was talking about. Even Kushina was confused and Jiraiya sighed. "I'm surrounded by idiots," Jiraiya thought to himself and turned to the Uzumaki duo. "You both know that I'm not in Konoha all the time, but I still take missions. It's thanks to outposts like this one. Every 2 weeks or month I get an assignment at this place and submit my reports here. Sarutobi-sensei gives me a reward and it is added to my service record," Jiraiya explained, causing Kushina and Naruto to nod in understanding. Kushina didn't know because there was no such system when Minato was Hokage. Naruto didn't know because he had no idea what it was like to be an S-rank shinobi, but someday he would know. "So we're here for a mission?" Naruto asked, and Jiraiya nodded. Naruto gulped as he was shaking at the thought of having to fight. He could run, walk, use chakra to a certain extent, but fighting was something else entirely. He doubted he could handle Sasuke with the weight the seals had on his body. He's lucky that he even walks and runs, let alone trains, but that's just the way he's built. What are we going to do? Cut out gang stops? Naruto asked, and Kushina turned to Jiraiya. The sage sighed and rubbed the back of his head. I haven't checked yet. Don't forget that Tsuchan won't give me anything difficult if you're with me. I didn't even tell her that Kushina was alive because of you. I can only imagine her surprise. Jiraiya said, and Naruto turned to his mother, who was smiling, but he didn't pay attention. He shuddered because he was looking into her eyes. Her eyes don't smile. There's no joy in them. She's not happy. Naruto mentally shouted as Kushina contemplated the meeting with Tsunade and how it would go. Well, let's not talk about it, let's go inside. This assignment will give us the opportunity to test your skills and see where you still need to tighten up, Jiraiya said, and Naruto gulped. In fact, he had nothing to show in terms of combat. For several weeks his mother taught him taijutsu, as well as several sword kata, and he was already quite advanced in the Kage Bunshin technique when his mother told him the secret of this jutsu, and why it is considered a B-rank jutsu. The user receives information from clones no matter what he did and did not teach. That's why it was great for reconnaissance and infiltration missions. Since then, he had used his clones to improve his swordsmanship to at least the level of a genin, and train his taijutsu to that of an average chunin. He had to shed rivers of sweat and suffer thoroughly, but all this was done in the name of strength. Okay, let's go. I hope we find something good, Naruto said as he followed Jiraiya in as Kushina followed Naruto inside. They saw an old man at the table. Naruto and Kushina took the opportunity to explore the inside of the store. It was filled to the brim with the latest weapons and equipment from Konoha. Kushina took the opportunity to buy a few things since she hadn't been to a specialty store yet. She patted Jiraiya on the shoulder and smiled. Jiraiya grimaced like a martyr and gave her his wallet, and the woman began shopping, choosing weapons, clothes, and tools for herself. Jiraiya tried not to cry, and Naruto chuckled at the sight. At last, Jiraiya had come to terms with the times he'd emptied the blonde's wallet and spent his money on whores and booze. Karma is cool, Databeo. Naruto mentally shouted, causing Kyubi to nod in agreement, although the blonde couldn't see it. Although sometimes she can be such a bitch, Kyubi said, and Naruto nodded in agreement. He himself could confirm this, as could Kyubi. Jiraiya simply watched as Kushina bought equipment and clothes until she walked up to the counter and began unloading what she had chosen. Score please, Kushina said with a smirk, and the man turned to Jiraiya as the sage sighed and nodded. The merchant named the price, and Kushina paid for everything, returning the wallet to Jiraiya and thanking him. Naruto and Kyubi continued to mock Jiraiya while Kushina sealed all her clothes and new tools into scrolls that she bought in the previous city. They sold high-quality scrolls and even high-quality ink. Kushina was delighted by this, but Naruto wasn't sure why. Perhaps this is just her hobby, but that's not the point. Jiraiya walked up to the counter and handed the old man his documents. He nodded, took out a scroll and handed it to Jiraiya. The Sannin nodded and left the store with Kushina and Naruto following behind him. As they left the store, Jiraiya pulled out a scroll and opened it. What's there? Naruto asked. Jiraiya hesitated and looked at the closed door with a smirk. We were lucky. B-rank mission, Jiraiya said, and Naruto's eyes sparkled. Kushina watched her son's enthusiasm with a smile and listened as Jiraiya explained the details of the mission. Basically, we need to go to the land of tea and help protect their daimyo's treasury from thieves. His elite guards are unable to cope with the bandits, since these guys are former shinobi. Tsunade says it's a B rank because there might be an A rank missing in the group. Nothing complicated, I guess, Jiraiya said as he saw Kushina and Naruto smiling excitedly. He began to sweat when he realized who exactly he was talking to. I can't wait for it, Naruto shouted, and Kushina laughed. I'm going to have fun today, Databane! Kushina exclaimed, and the Uzumaki duo was ready to leave. Jiraiya sighed as he brought them back to their senses after the celebration. I don't know if you two understand, but the land of tea is still at least 3 or 4 days away. Not to mention, the sun is already setting, so we better leave tomorrow, Jiraiya said, causing Kushina and Naruto to frown. We will find a place to spend the night, and in the morning we will leave at dawn, Jiraiya said and left. Kushina and Naruto sighed as they followed Jiraiya to the nearest inn. Night, Naruto sighed and looked up at the ceiling in his bedroom. He was still thinking about the meeting with Shin a week ago, and he felt bad that he didn't know what happened to his sword. This was the case when Kushina taught him the correct stance to start with and even the correct posture. He had used the sword in short training matches with Kushina and the clones, so that he began to feel it as an extension of his arm. He was pleased that he was progressing, but he knew that he still had a lot to learn. Besides, Shin said that Naruto would have certain responsibilities, but he also said that Naruto wouldn't train until Shin was sure of it, so the blonde just went with it for now. Naruto turned onto his side and sighed again. He wasn't sure, but it seemed to him that with every breath that escaped his lips, he became more like Shikamaru. He curled up into a ball and closed his eyes, but then the door opened. Jiraiya and Kushina walked through the door, with Jiraiya immediately going to bed. Kushina straightened her hair, left the room for a second and headed to the bathroom. Naruto wasn't sure what she was doing, but figured she was getting ready for bed, just like him. He was lying facing the wall, but he could still clearly see the room out of the corner of his eye, and the sight Naruto saw surprised him. Kushina walked out of the bathroom wearing a simple t-shirt that showed off her beautiful breasts and flat stomach. She was also wearing red shorts that went well with her hair. Naruto sighed and cursed the fact that no motel ever had 3-room suites, or at least the ones they checked into. His gaze wandered over the slender figure of his mother for some time until she disappeared from his field of vision. He heard her climb onto the bed next to him, and Naruto felt the desire to sleep leave him. He also mentally cursed himself. It was his mother, for Kami's sake. It was so disgusting, but because of their closeness, Naruto couldn't think of anything else. The smell of her hair excited his senses, and the movement of her body when she hugged him, as usual, was unbearably painful. He felt her touch on his back and her breath on his neck. This is wrong. Why did she have to become my mother? Naruto wondered, and Kyuubi chuckled at the problem of his vessel. It was so funny watching the guy throw. Naruto just remained silent and tried to sleep. When he resurrected her, he would have to admit that she was a very hot woman. He remembered her face against the moon and her appearance. Naruto sighed heavily and simply forced himself to sleep. For now, he would have to put up with his mother's proximity, but if he did nothing, things would turn out badly. The next morning, Naruto groaned as they walked down the path towards Tea Country. He still didn't get enough sleep, or rather, he got enough sleep, but he was more tired than when he last woke up. Naruto looked into the distance and was silent the entire way. He didn't know what to talk about, or rather, he was worried that he was the only one who found the situation awkward. Kid, you must be weird to think such a thing, Kyuubi said, and Naruto blushed and then narrowed his eyes. What are you talking about? Naruto asked, pretending to be a felt boot, but Kyuubi wanted a different reaction. Oh yes, he would love to mock his vessel until it was no longer funny, but Kyuubi knew for sure that this would not happen. Don't play dumb, Naruto. I never thought that you would become a little mama. Shut up. Immediately. Don't you dare finish that sentence. Naruto mentally screamed, and Kyuubi laughed. This will be a lot of fun. Naruto sighed heavily and broke the connection with the Kyuubi. Continuing to walk, Kushina watched her son for several minutes, and from his face she realized that something was wrong with him. He was more tired than usual, was very taciturn, and muttered something to himself. She looked at him for a while and could only guess what he was thinking about. "Narukun, are you okay?" Kushina asked, and Naruto came out of his stupor. He looked at his mother, and although it was difficult, he managed to force himself to forget the previous night and talk to her. "Yes, Ka-san, I'm fine." "And what?" Naruto asked, and Kushina simply shrugged. For some reason, she didn't like this answer, but she decided to leave it as is for now. "Nothing. You're just acting strange, somehow unusual," she said, and Naruto's eyes widened. Seeing this reaction, Kushina felt like she had hit the nail on the head, but she waited for Naruto to speak. "Oh, I'm just thinking about something. More precisely, about my contract with Shin," Naruto said, keeping the last part to himself. Kushina nodded and turned to face forward. Naruto sighed and just continued walking with them. Jiraiya seemed to notice what was happening between them, but ignored it. Situations between mother and son were best resolved on their own, and he wouldn't want to do anything that would cause Kushina to set her sights on his wallet again. So Jiraiya simply didn't interfere, for now 4 hours later. The entire trip, as it turned out, passed without incident. The sun was high in the sky and everyone was feeling quite hot. No one found anything to talk about other than casual conversations, but that's when Naruto decided to try and break the atmosphere when he wanted to know something interesting. Ka-san, you never told me. How were you able to use the Kage Bunshin without hand seals?" Naruto asked while Jiraiya's eyebrow twitched, indicating that he wanted to know too. Kushina grinned at the unexpected question, but knowing her son, she knew full well that it was bound to happen sooner or later. "So you want to know this?" "Well, I will say that I had the ability for this, or should I say that the Kage Bunshin successfully complemented my unique chakra. Just like with the chakra chains, it turned out that my control over the Kage Bunshin was also not entirely normal. At first, like you, I had to make seals and scream, but after a while I was able to do it mentally. The trick is to release your chakra and turn it into what you want. If you want to get a clone, think about it, and imagine a number. You also need to measure how much chakra needs to be poured into the clones to make them more durable. If you want to learn it, I'll show you, Narukun," Kushina said, and Naruto's eyes sparkled before he raised an eyebrow. He hadn't noticed it all these weeks, so he had to ask, "Why do you call me Narukun?" Naruto asked, and Kushina smiled. She was unaware of the situation in Naruto's mind and quickly hugged him, causing the blonde to blush in embarrassment. "Because it's cute, Databane," Kushina purred, and Naruto choked. Yes, it really wasn't great, but he can handle it. He has always done this and will always do this. Unknown to the three of them, someone was watching them and chuckling slightly. "Enjoy yourself, Naruto Uzumaki. You have no idea what fate is in store for you as the first Shinigami among humans." The Shinigami whispered and dissolved. Chapter 9. 3 days later, Naruto, Kushina, and Jiraiya continued to walk towards the land of tea to complete their chosen mission, which was to protect the daimyo's treasury from thieves. The awkwardness that appeared at the beginning of the journey disappeared after 3 days of travel and countless conversations. Naruto had somewhat forgotten that incident, although it was quite difficult to do so, because Kyuubi constantly reminded him of it. While they were on their way, Kushina trained Naruto in Kenjutsu and Taijutsu, and she was more than pleased with the results of the weight seals. As she had always known, Naruto was a quick learner, though he sweated to prove it, and even on his only day off, the blonde was still improving his chakra control under Jiraiya's guidance. The Sannin gave him theory books, to which Naruto sulked and Kushina giggled as she shared his dislike of reading. They had just arrived in the land of tea, and the sun was already setting. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief and stopped near the restaurant. They saw many people talking and walking along the light-filled streets. We finally got there. And when will we meet this daimyo? Naruto asked as he sat down on the ground. Jiraiya sighed sadly, took out the scroll with the task and ran his eyes over the contents. We can meet him after we eat. Why don't you two buy something and I'll take care of the hotel? Jiraiya said as Naruto and Kushina looked at each other, and then gave Jiraiya blank looks. Aren't you hungry? Kushina asked, and Jiraiya chuckled as he walked away. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he saw Jiraiya's retreating silhouette and sighed heavily upon hearing his answer. Don't worry about me. I'll meet you soon. Jiraiya smiled lewdly as he left. Now it was Kushina's turn to sigh, as she remembered that even during her lifetime, the land of tea was famous for its brothels, and knowing Jiraiya, it was not difficult to anticipate his route. Well, let's see what they're cooking here, Kushina said as she entered the restaurant. Naruto followed her. The restaurant looked quite unusual, but they were too tired to pay attention to the surroundings. Kushina sat down at the table and Naruto sat opposite her. Both were given a menu and ordered several dishes they liked. Because they were tired, they had no desire to eat anything heavy. Naruto only ate soup and a couple of sandwiches, and Kushina also chose the same. It was more like just dinner, without unnecessary conversations since everyone was thinking about their own things. Naruto, no matter how hard he tried, could not forget the night he felt attracted to his mother. He knew he was the only one who felt this way, but Kushina, if given enough time, would pick up on some hints and it worried Naruto slightly. He looked up from his plate and saw that Kushina was calmly eating dinner, and involuntarily began to admire her again. His gaze passed over the snow-white, flawless skin, and then on her beautiful red hair. He could understand why his father might fall in love with such a woman, but what bothered him was that he might be starting to fall in love himself. The blonde always thought that he liked Sakura, but somewhere deep down he knew that he was deceiving himself. He remembered how Sakura sobbed when Sasuke woke up from the coma into which Itachi's genjutsu put him. Naruto sighed, remembering how the pink-haired woman repeatedly hit and scolded him. He himself did not forget about this. He didn't know why he always let her do this. Maybe he thought that she will finally come to her senses. It was probably a dream too, Naruto thought and sighed, then looked at his mother again. Even though it was just soup and a few sandwiches, Kushina ate with some grace that made Naruto compare her to Sakura, and then the blonde chuckled at the thought. Mainly because he couldn't compare Sakura to his mother. The pink-haired one didn't have everything that made Kushina look amazing. He could chalk it up to Sakura still having a child's body, but he knew that even if she were older, she still couldn't compare to his mother. That long red hair, that soft skin, and just the amazing attraction that she radiated. Kushina felt her son's eyes on her as she ate, and to be honest, she was embarrassed by it. She didn't know why he was looking at her so intently, but she figured that Naruto still hadn't fully realized that she was alive and next to him. Kushina mentally smiled as she thought about it. She was happy that she could be with him just like that. All these years she wondered what it would be like to be with her son, and when Minato wanted to make him a Jinchuriki, Kushina experienced incomparable bitterness, but Naruto grew up to be a wonderful young man. He looked so much like Minato that the resemblance was almost unnerving, but Kushina wouldn't dare compare Naruto to Minato in anything other than appearance. Naruto wasn't Minato, he was Naruto, and would always be himself. Kushina looked into his eyes, causing Naruto to look away. Is something bothering you, Naruto-kun? Kushina asked, and the blonde hastily looked away and blushed with embarrassment. He was caught staring at his mother, or maybe she felt it all along but didn't say anything to him. And nothing special, Ka-san. I'm already full, so I'll go, Naruto said, quickly getting up and leaving the restaurant. Kushina frowned when she saw Naruto leaving. It was as if the blonde was avoiding her for some reason. Kushina looked at her son's plate and noticed that he had a few sandwiches left. This was suspicious, because Naruto usually sweeps everything clean. "What's troubling you, baby?" Kushina wondered, putting the money on the table and leaving the restaurant to meet Jiraiya. Naruto sighed heavily as he walked through the streets. He was an idiot. He ran out of the restaurant so quickly that his mother didn't even have time to respond. Maybe it was on the spur of the moment, he wasn't sure, but he definitely knew he was only making things worse. "No joke, guy. Now she will definitely suspect you," Kyubi said, and Naruto just nodded with a sigh. "It's not my fault," Naruto retorted, and Kyubi smiled madly. He was having a lot of fun while he was making fun of his vessel. "Hey, you were the one staring at her. I admit that she is attractive to a person, even if we have an I hate you, you hate me relationship," Kyubi said, and Naruto chuckled. He could believe it. Kyubi and Kushina argue about something every day, even over the most meaningless reasons. "I'm sure I don't want to know about it," Naruto said, and Kyubi snorted before disappearing into the darkness of the cage. Naruto wasn't sure if that was the answer or not, but at the moment he didn't care anymore. After several hours of wandering aimlessly around the city, Naruto approached a large building and raised an eyebrow in surprise. He saw Jiraiya talking to someone and approached them. "Ero-sennin, what are you doing?" Naruto asked, getting Jiraiya's attention. The Sannin's eyebrow twitched before he slapped Naruto. "Oh, you damn brat, I asked you not to call me that," Jiraiya yelled as Naruto rubbed the back of his head. "Don't hit me, you damn pervert!" Naruto hissed, and Jiraiya sighed sadly and turned back to the man he was talking to. "I apologize for this incident. So, when do you want us to start guarding the treasury?" Jiraiya asked, and Naruto looked at the man in formal attire. He winced when he realized that Jiraiya was talking to the daimyo of the land of tea. Perhaps this large building was his residence. Daimyo have always been distinguished by their special inventiveness in everything. "If possible, I would like you to start tonight. I don't want these renegades getting their hands on my money. I already receive threats all the time, so I wouldn't want to worry about anything else while I'm ruling this country," the daimyo said, and Jiraiya nodded while Naruto watched their conversation. It's really a big problem if they only targeted the daimyo because of his wealth. "He might have done something," Kushina said, startling Naruto, causing him to jump. He quickly turned around to see his mother smiling, but he sensed some kind of sadness coming from her, and he knew it was his fault. Jiraiya seemed to understand this too, but did not say anything. "I did not do anything. I've only been in office for a few months," the daimyo countered, causing Kushina to sigh. "Sorry. I didn't mean anything bad. Just wondering." "So, Jiraiya, when do we start?" Kushina asked, and Jiraiya grinned madly. "Right now. We will inspect everything inside and then act. If they try to come, we will capture one of them and he will lead us to the others," Jiraiya explained to them, making Naruto and Kushina nod in understanding. "Let me show you around the inside," the daimyo said as Jiraiya followed him inside. Kushina was about to follow them, but Naruto caught her hand, causing his mother to turn to him. "Ka-san, listen, I'm sorry I ran away like that. I just wanted to tell you this," Naruto said, and Kushina held his gaze for a second. She could see that he was truly sorry, but he was also hiding something from her. Although she was glad that he spoke to her, the last thing she wanted was for both of them to feel some awkwardness in communication. "It's okay, Naruto-kun. I'm sorry if I did something wrong," Kushina apologized, smiling sincerely at him. Naruto nodded with his signature foxy grin, and they entered the building. The sight that opened before them shocked them. The hall was so elegant and picturesque. Most of the hallway was lined with rich wood, and chandeliers hung from the ceiling, illuminating the room. At the threshold they saw Jiraiya's sandals and also took off their shoes. After wandering around a bit and admiring the interior of the daimyo's palace, Kushina and Naruto reached Jiraiya, who was lounging imposingly on the sofa. He left us to guard the treasury and went to bed. I said it would be better if he went somewhere quieter, but he said the palace is the only place where he feels safe, so I couldn't help it, Jiraiya said, causing Kushina and Naruto to nod in understanding. So, what's the plan? Asked Naruto, who was impatient to take action. Jiraiya nodded and took out a map with a floor plan of the building. Well, I can handle these guys alone, so you will work in pairs. The daimyo told me that they could take different routes through the windows and from the lower levels of the palace. Apparently his guards can't do anything to stop them, which is why we came. I'll stop them on the lower levels if they get in there, and you two will guard the windows. So keep your eyes open, Jiraiya said and rolled up the scroll. Naruto and Kushina nodded in agreement as Jiraiya went to his position. You know, I even feel sorry for everyone who tries to attack you, Ka-san, Naruto said, and Kushina smiled as she put on her shoes. Maybe, but you better not relax just because I can cover for you, Kushina responded, and Naruto rolled his eyes before lightly poking his mother in the shoulder. Don't look down on me, Ka-san. Besides, I'm not the type to give up easily, Naruto said, and Kushina giggled. No doubt. Well, then Naruto-kun, begin. We don't want them to find us, Kushina ordered, turning off the lights. Naruto nodded in agreement and took a secluded place, while he sent clones to other floors to monitor the windows in those places. 5 hours later, Naruto sighed tiredly and rubbed his eyes. It was already late, and they still had not found any signs of nuke activity. He noticed Kushina sitting next to him reading a small book. Naruto looked into it and saw that it was dedicated to creating jutsu that complemented kenjutsu well. He asked her why she didn't go with his clones or to a separate room to make sure no one was inside, and Kushina told him that she was a talented sensor. She could even sense where Jiraiya was and could tell if someone was breaking in. Kyubi, do you feel anything? Naruto asked, causing the nine tails to yawn and open one eye tiredly. Yeah, they're getting closer. Your mother's sensory abilities only cover the immediate rooms, but I can tell they're outside. At least 10 people are standing in front of the window. 2 where the pervert is. You're lucky, guy, the 2 below are shinobi of ranks A and B. Everyone who climbs through windows has a C rank. I think you can handle them, you should, at least. Kyubi drawled sleepily and fell silent. Naruto rose to his feet with a sigh, causing the woman to look up from her book. What's the matter, Naruto-chan? Kushina asked, trying out a new nickname for her son, while Naruto grabbed his sword and gripped the hilt tightly. Ka-san, get ready to fight, Databeo, Naruto said, grinning predatorily as Kushina rose to her feet. Her son pointed towards the street, and Kushina concentrated on the indicated direction. She widened her eyes in surprise when she felt 10 flares from chakra, which Kyubi also felt. The redhead closed the book and put it aside, taking out a kunai. It's been a while since I fought. Let's see if I can do it, Kushina said to herself as Naruto drew his sword. He felt a strange aura begin to emanate from the blade and looked at the contract seal on his hand, which glowed briefly, but then dimmed. Naruto narrowed his eyes and jumped towards the ceiling while Kushina remained behind the curtains. After a few more minutes, the windows opened and the enemy appeared. Naruto narrowed his eyes, chakra sticking to the ceiling. He had spent many days training in chakra control under Kushina's supervision, and now he had little difficulty mastering it. All is ready? Asked one of the robbers, whose crossed-up Terigakure protector left no doubt that these guys did not come here to drink tea. Yes, these guards won't interfere anymore. Come on, We need to enclose this place as quickly as possible, and then we'll burn it down. I don't understand why we need 8 more people. It's not a big deal, said the second one, causing the older one to squint his eyes with displeasure. Shut your mouth and climb. We must endure everything before the daimyo wakes up. Who knows who he might hire after the 2 failures that were your fault? He said, Hey, it wasn't my fault. These guards snuck up on me and I had to kill them, said the younger one, and the older one sighed sadly. Whatever, just get on with your business, he said, reaching for the door leading to the corridor, but before he could turn the handle, Naruto jumped down and kicked him into the wall. You guys are a little late to try to do something to us. Why don't you get up before I kick your ass? Naruto said, causing Kushina to smile. She didn't want to reveal her presence just yet. She just wanted to see how Naruto would perform in battle with the weight seals placed on him. Oh, looks like the brat is trying to be cool. And he's a ninja, how cute. I knew it would be different today, one of the bandits said, and Naruto grinned. He might have felt a little uncomfortable under the influence of the seals, but he was able to overcome it. Naruto got into the attack stance his mother taught him as the 2 rinnegan unsheathed their 2 chakra blades. So it will be a sword fight. Well boy, you're out of luck. We were quite good swordsmen by Kiri's standards, and our village is famous for its kenjutsu masters. The 2 chunin said mockingly, and Naruto narrowed his eyes. He didn't care about any of this. Besides, he was trained by a kenjutsu legend, and that was more than enough. Then why don't you show me how good you are? Naruto barked, sending chakra to his feet and rushing at them. The younger chunin blocked Naruto's blow with his blade and tried to kick the blonde, and Naruto realized something at that moment. His opponent was slow. Too slow. Naruto could have dodged it so easily. His mother was much faster and stronger. The blonde dodged the blow before stabbing his sword into the man's side, but was stopped by another chunin. You're quick, the rinnegan said, and Naruto grinned. He saw his mother watching him from behind the curtain, and he was going to show her that he had become much stronger. Thank you. I have an excellent sensei, Naruto replied, taking a kunai from his pouch and throwing it at the older raider. The blonde then turned around and kicked the younger thief through the window, causing the rinnegan to grunt in surprise at the sight of their comrade being slammed into the ground. What the heck? Someone shouted as everyone watched Naruto jump out of the palace. The blonde grinned and looked at the older man. Weren't you going to show me how good you are with a sword? Naruto said arrogantly, causing the rinnegan to grind his teeth. You impudent bastard. Kiririn hissed, imbuing his blade with chakra. It was the finest chakra-conducting metal sword he could get his hands on. With it, the blonde idiot's sword will be cut like butter. Naruto quickly flew into the air and threw a kunai with an explosive seal at the man, but he easily dodged the throw, and the kunai stuck into the wall. A few seconds later it exploded, thereby raising the alarm in the palace. Naruto crossed his fingers and shouted, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Creating 3 clones. Get the daimyo to safety. I'll deal with them, Naruto told his clones. They nodded and ran away. The rinnegan chuckled, Boy, you overestimated yourself. If you haven't noticed, you're surrounded, the man said, and Naruto bowed his head, letting his hair cover his face, thus hiding his narrowed eyes. Not really. Our duel will continue. Ka-sen will make sure we are not disturbed, Naruto said, causing the 2 men to laugh loudly. Oh, this is so funny. He calls mommy for help. Just think, I almost began to respect him, said the older rinnegan, and the younger one laughed. Naruto continued to grin as he saw some of them sheathing their swords. That wasn't funny at all, Databane, Kushina said as the pair of rinnegan turned around and noticed that all of their comrades were lying motionless on the floor, and the redhead was fixing her hair. I should have gone with Jiraiya, He's probably having fun right now. Kushina drawled, causing the raiders to grit their teeth as Naruto's sword began to glow. The blonde raised an eyebrow and the Shinigami seal on his hand glowed even more, causing the blonde to close his eyes. Kushina glared at Naruto's sword, as did the two renegade Chunin as the blonde approached them. His hair covered his eyes. His body did not radiate bloodlust, but there was a feeling of death floating around him. Naruto raised his head, revealing to the bandits azure-gray eyes that were slightly silver at the edges. He bit his thumb and ran it over the seal of agreement. Kuchios no jutsu, Naruto said quietly without having to turn around. The reaction of the two was enough to understand that they were looking at a Shinigami. What the hell is this? The elder asked as Shin turned to Naruto. It's time for you to learn what it means to be a human Shinigami, Shin said, and Naruto nodded in understanding. The blonde rushed forward with his sword at the ready, but a couple of thieves blocked his attack before Naruto could stop. He felt so light. It was as if his mother's seals didn't have the slightest effect on him. Naruto appeared behind them, holding his sword out in front of them. The youngest of the Nukanins blocked the blonde's attack, but something was wrong. Their swords were better and Naruto's sword shouldn't have been able to withstand their attacks. It should have broken long ago. What is this sword made of? The younger one exclaimed, stepping back from the blonde. The Nukanin huffed, and Naruto smiled more. The smile was not evil, but it was kind. It was the smile of a man who was simply enjoying life. The blonde turned to the surprised Kushina and smirked. Ka-san, I will continue to improve and show you how good I am, Naruto said as he disappeared from view. He wasn't sure what it was, but Shin was influencing him somehow. Even Kyubi did not sleep and watched the progress of the fight. Naruto appeared behind the younger Nukanin, and the sword pierced through the thief, piercing his stomach. The senior renegade shinobi flinched as Naruto cut through his comrade's body, swinging his blade to the side. Kushina's eyes widened in shock as she noticed a small, white humanoid-like figure behind Naruto. Cut it, Naruto-sama. This is the first step to becoming a human Shinigami, Shin said, and Naruto obediently complied with his request. He cut the whitish silhouette, and a moment later the sword absorbed something, and the body of the renegade fell to the floor. Naruto's blade glowed a little brighter, and the blonde grinned predatorily. You! What have you done? The older ninja asked in shock and anger, and Naruto answered him with pleasure. I sealed his soul into my sword. Now I understood what Shin meant when he said that he would no longer use his blade. He imbued my katana with energy, and now my blade is the essence of Shinigami. Or the death sword, Naruto said, causing the missing nin to grit his teeth. Damn you! You! Damn! The thief growled, rushing at Naruto. The blonde pulled his sword back and closed his eyes. I'm already damned, Databeo, the blonde said calmly and lunged forward. Opening his eyes, he saw the soul of a bandit in front of him and grinned. When he was younger, he remembered Sarutobi talking to some Umbu in his office about some technique involving Shinigami. Naruto was very good at hiding, as he could elude Umbu even in his eye-catching orange suit. Naruto clasped his hands together. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but it might work. Fuin, Shiki Fujin, Naruto shouted and Shin smirked weakly. This boy was full of surprises. So have you heard of this jutsu? Actually, I would take your soul, but I won't because of the contract. Shin noted, grabbing the renegade's soul and sealing it in a pot so that no one could ever resurrect it. With no one around, Naruto turned to the Shinigami. So will you train me now? Naruto asked, and the Shinigami looked at the sword in the blonde's hand. Exactly. I wanted you to use the blade, it was a kind of rite of passage. Now your training will begin, Shin said, and Naruto nodded before the spirit disappeared. Naruto turned to his shocked mother, who still couldn't come to her senses. Her son was a Shinigami contractor. The very thought of it was terrifying. Kushina walked up to the blonde and looked at him thoughtfully. "And you are full of surprises," Kushina drawled, and Naruto looked away. He sheathed his sword as if he was disappointed in himself for what he had done in front of his mother. "Aren't you angry with me?" Naruto asked. The last thing he wanted was for his mother to reject him because of this frightening power. In response, Kushina hugged him tightly, causing the blonde to choke. "How can I be angry with my son? I was a little worried about you, but you handled everything great. Don't ever think that I hate you, Naruto. After all, you are my son. You could use some work on your kenjutsu, but you did great," Kushina said, and Naruto hugged his mother. Ahem, maybe you can break away from each other already?" said Jiraiya, driving the couple into a stupor. He brought in the tied-up robbers. Whitehair did not think that they would be so easy to deal with. They were supposed to be a rank missing nin, but as Jiraiya found out, they were just lying to scare off rivals or anyone who would want their heads. A bunch of idiots, no wonder Jiraiya dealt with them so quickly. "This is all? I mean, it's over, right?" Naruto asked, and Jiraiya nodded, rubbing the back of his head. "Well, let's just be glad that we coped with everything without problems. I saw the Naruto clones take out the daimyo. He's outside now, so let's take these two to him and he'll decide what to do," Jiraiya suggested, and the Uzumaki nodded in unison and headed towards the daimyo. They found the ruler sitting on the lawn in front of the palace and approached him. "Here you go, daimyo-sama. It didn't take as long as we thought. These were just Chunin-level renegades. These two are the leaders of the attackers," Jiraiya said, and the daimyo stood up. "Thank you, Jiraiya-sama. I will inform Hokage-sama of the successful completion of the mission when I send a messenger to Konoha," the daimyo said, causing Jiraiya, Kushina and Naruto to bow in gratitude before leaving. "What do we do?" Naruto asked, causing Jiraiya to chuckle. "I am going to sleep." "You can do whatever you want, kid," Jiraiya replied. Meanwhile, Kushina and Naruto stopped in the middle of the street, watching the old hermit enter the inn. "What are you going to do, Ka-san?" Naruto asked, and Kushina shrugged. She yawned and Naruto smiled. "It's probably quite late. Let's go to bed," Naruto said as he opened the door. Kushina followed him. Chapter 10. The next morning. "Come on, Naruto. Your kenjutsu is good, but it still needs improvement," Kushina said, and Naruto sighed heavily for the 10th time since they woke up. It was completely unfair. Jiraiya went somewhere, and Kushina and Naruto continued their training. "Ka-san, you are being unfair," Naruto said as he fell to the ground. Kushina just giggled once more as sweat dripped from Naruto's face. Kushina lay down next to Naruto and watched him rest. She could only imagine what he would look like in a few years. He must be a real man once they complete their training. At that moment, Kushina smelled something and her nose identified it as Naruto. She smelled her son's post-workout sweat. It had an unusual smell of sweat, but to her it was intoxicating. Habanero caught herself having a strange thought and jumped to her feet. What is she doing? She shouldn't behave like this. Naruto looked at his mother and raised an eyebrow. Ka-san, are you okay? Naruto asked, and Kushina flinched slightly at the question. Yes, Naruto, I'm fine. Why do you ask? Kushina perked up, and Naruto squinted suspiciously. You're breathing heavily and you don't call it. Never mind, Naruto said and let out the air with a whistle. Kushina stared at her son for a moment before sighing. Sorry, I guess I'm just thinking too much, she replied, and Naruto seemed to accept that answer. The blonde simply lay on the platform and regained his breath. Ka-san, I'm glad you're back, Naruto said, and Kushina wondered why he said that, but she wasn't going to complain about it. Despite her doubts, she hugged Naruto, causing the blonde's eyes to widen in surprise. Well, we have you to thank for that. And believe me, Naruto-kun, I will never leave you again, Kushina said, and Naruto knew that she was not lying. She was above it to do that. Thank you, Kaa-san. What are you going to do when we get back to Konoha? Naruto asked, and Kushina put a finger to her chin thoughtfully and then smiled. Oh, I'm going to visit Tsunade. Something to discuss and perhaps give you back our home in Konoha, which was supposed to be yours, but something went wrong, Kushina said with a sly smile. Naruto gulped as Kushina rose to her feet. Well, baby, get up. We have 2 years to get your skills in order, and I will train you until you collapse from fatigue. Kushina purred and Naruto sighed sadly. This was his mother, and he wasn't going to complain. 2 years later. How long will I have to fuss with these damn documents? I swear, this job is getting worse every day, Tsunade grumbled, shrugging her shoulders. At that moment, a smiling Shizen appeared at the door. Today is the day, isn't it, Tsunade-sama? Shizen asked, and Tsunade chuckled. She looked out the window. It's time for this brat to come home, huh? My stress will definitely increase. But I don't understand the meaning of the note that Jiraiya sent me, Tsunade said, giving the piece of paper to Shizen. For Tsunadeheim, I'm glad I reached out to you. We will soon arrive in Konoha, and I want to tell you only one thing. Run. She goes. Get out of there now. This is not a good day to stay in Konoha. I've had my share of humiliation and pain, now it's your turn. Run, Jiraiya. Shizen glanced at the writing and raised an eyebrow. It looks like you're in danger, Shizen remarked, and Tsunade chuckled mockingly. As if anything could pose a threat to me. Have you forgotten who I am? Tsunade asked, and Shizen shook her head, looking at her mentor. Just in case, she was still going to take the message seriously. Well, it seems it's time to go, Tsunade said, getting up from her chair and heading towards the door. Exactly. We can't keep them waiting, can we? Shizen said thoughtfully, also leaving. Around Konoha 3 people were approaching a village hidden in the foliage. One of them was the very famous Jiraiya, in his usual clothes. Next was a woman in her 30s, wearing a green sleeveless sundress with a white zip-up blouse, short sleeves and a stand-up collar. Her blood-red hair cascaded down her back. It was Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's mother, and next to her walked the blonde Jinchuriki Kyubi himself. He grew taller, and his blonde hair framed his face with 2 small strands on the sides. He was wearing a black obi shirt and black trousers. On his arms were small blued shields that covered part of his arm and the seal on his hand. This was complemented by an orange belt that was wrapped around his waist and black boots. On his right hip hung a sword, which he had used all these 2 years. We finally got there. But this place hasn't changed at all, Naruto exclaimed as they approached the village gates. The 2 guards, Izumo and Kotetsu, raised their heads and smiled. Hey, isn't this? Izumo began, but didn't finish as he received a nod from his friend Kotetsu. True, but who is this woman next to him? Kotetsu asked, but Izumo shook his head. But really nothing has changed. Well, except for the Hokage's faces, but that was to be expected, right, Naruto-kun? Kushina asked, to which Naruto nodded in agreement as they walked through the village. POV. Sakura was still walking around the village, checking food supplies on Tsunade's instructions, until she saw her mentor and Shizen heading towards the village gates. Tsunade-sama, Shizen-san, where are you going? Sakura asked, causing Tsunade and Shizen to flinch, causing Sakura to raise an eyebrow. Did I say something wrong? Sakura asked, and Shizen giggled and Tsunade shook her head. Have you forgotten what day it is today? Tsunade asked, and Sakura narrowed her eyes. She thought for a second, and then looked at the Hokage in surprise and dropped her shoulders. How could I forget about this? Is he already here? Sakura asked, and Tsunade broke into a crazy smile, shrugging. I'm not sure, but he should appear soon. Tsunade answered, and she, Shizen and Sakura walked towards the gates of Konoha.pov. The group of three continued to wander through the trees as Naruto scanned their surroundings. He made sure that nothing had changed since he was last here. Hey, look, it's the boss! Someone said, and Naruto turned around to see Konohamaru and his team along with Tsunade, Shizen and Sakura. Hello Konohamaru, how are you? Naruto asked, ruffling his hair. Konohamaru chuckled as he hugged his rival. I was great, he replied, making Naruto smile. Hey brat! And you have matured. Not to mention your sense of style has really improved. Tsunade said as Naruto grinned madly. He ran his hand through his hair and smiled. Well, I thought I needed some changes, Naruto said, making Tsunade nod in understanding. At that moment they heard laughter which made Naruto and Jiraiya gulp. Tsunade turned to the woman next to Naruto and widened her eyes in surprise. Finally I got to you. How are you, Tsunade? Please come here so I can talk to you about something, Kushina said, stroking her sword as Tsunade stepped back. Shizen gasped and Sakura raised an eyebrow questioningly. Who is this? And why is she holding the sword so strangely? Sakura asked as everyone retreated from Ki, which filled the air with a thick sense of danger. 2 years. I've waited 2 years to see you, Tsunade, and I just want to make up for lost time, right? Kushina asked, and Tsunade turned to Jiraiya, who only gave her a deep bow and wished her luck. But how? But you, dead, well, that's an interesting story, but we'll leave it for another time. Now you, with pink hair, please step aside, Kushina ordered, advancing on Tsunade, while Sakura began to get angry. Hey, listen, you can't talk to Tsunade-sama like that, Sakura said as Tsunade, Jiraiya, Naruto and Shizen mentally screamed at Sakura to shut her mouth for once. Kushina turned to Sakura, who glared at the redhead with narrowed eyes. As Sakura-chan, maybe you should get out of the way now, Naruto said as Sakura looked at him. Shut up, Naruto baka. I don't need your advice to solve this problem, Sakura said, and the air around her became even colder. Kushina giggled even more when a new victim was found. Your name is Sakura, isn't it? Kushina asked and Sakura nodded, still not taking her eyes off the woman. Exactly, she said proudly, while Kushina took a deep breath and cracked her neck. Okay, that's all I wanted to know, Kushina said, drawing her sword. The entire village looked at the two and Kushina smiled. Then I have to tell you something. In my presence, don't call my son an idiot, and if you hit him again, which I already heard, then I will kill you, Kushina said innocently, which made Sakura gulp and realize that her life was in danger. Now, as I already said, Tsunade, explain to me why you didn't tell Naruto about his heritage, and why he doesn't live in our house, which I asked you and Sarutobi to do, and also why you didn't raise him, as you and Jiraiya promised? Kushina drawled threateningly while Tsunade stepped back. The blonde looked at Shizen as if for help, but she was on the other side of the road, and Tsunade swallowed the tight lump in her throat before looking back. Hush, Kushina, I don't know how you managed to come back, but let's calm down and discuss everything, okay? Tsunade asked while Kushina stopped. Even though I just met you, the time for talking has passed. It's time for punishment. Jiraiya got his due, now you will too. You can run, but I will catch you, Kushina said, and at the same moment Tsunade, having imbued her legs with chakra, began to run, but she was quickly pulled back by a chain attached to her leg. You see, I said that you can run, but now be so kind as to stay. It would be very noble of you, Tsunade. Now, please, let's go somewhere and Talk, Kushina said, dragging the blonde into a small alley. Tsunade's teeth clicked together as she was dragged away. Shizen, help me! Tsunade shouted, but the brunette just swallowed and bowed. Forgive me, Tsunade-sama, Shizen whispered when, inexplicably, darkness filled the alley. Aaaah! Tsunade screamed, causing the entire village to tremble. Naruto, who is this woman? Sakura asked, trying to stop the shaking in her legs, and Naruto sighed heavily and rubbed the back of his head, as did Shizen and Jiraiya, who were praying to Kami to save Tsunade. She is my mother. Kushina Uzumaki, or Bloody Habanero of Konoha, Naruto said, and Sakura opened her eyes in surprise. She's too tough for me, Sakura thought as Tsunade's heartbreaking screams filled the village. Yes, Naruto returned to Konoha and brought with him an unexpected surprise.